Hello everybody. Okay, so you've seen part one. Part two, we're going to finish up. We're going to cut these pillars to fit. We're going to fit them to the gun, and well, we're going to drill the holes first. But once we get the holes drilled, and I'll show you on the drill press over here. Real important that you drill them as square as you can, because you don't want to end up with problems with fitment later on. So it's always a possibility. Just looking at a little scuff I got here. That's a used stock, so there is some marks in it, but it is pretty. There always is possibilities for some problems. So if we do run into those, we'll use them as teaching moments, and we'll go from there. All right, so let's drill some holes. Stand by, I'll get you set up. Okay, there's the first hole, drilled through, all the way through our action to accept this pillar. So let's do a trial fit here. We'll see what we've got. All right, just gonna go in here like this. Now it's gonna fit flush with the bottom right there, but over here it's going to be up. So we've got to get this one here in here correctly for the action. So we're going to have to put the stock in, the action in, and more than likely we're going to have to trim off this end here because it looks like it's too long. You see it there? Right there is too long. Now we're going to have to do this one. This one here is a little bit more tricky because this one here has a escutcheon in it. Where am I? Sorry, I'm off the screen. So that there is the seat for this pillar. Now we're going to not have that. We're going to have this at the bottom. So this is going to come all the way out, and we're going to see that silver at the bottom. But it's going to be recessed because this screw is set up to be a little bit deeper. So it's a little bit tricky. Ideally, I would only drill it and save this piece here and just take it out to the bottom of that. But I got to see what I can do if that's doable. It's a little bit more difficult because I don't have, well, I guess I could. I do have a flat bottom bit. So I guess I could do that. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here because I want to leave that, if I can, for looks. All right, worst case scenario is I'll have to adjust the length of the screw after the fact. But we'll see. Let's see what we do. All right, we got one of them done. One of the holes is drilled. That chip out that was down in the bottom there, we've drilled it right out, so it's no longer even an issue because we took it right out. And I'll chase that a little bit with a file just to make sure there's nothing in there going to cause us any problems, but there really isn't much there to worry about. All right, let's drill this front one. Stand by. Okay, so what I've done is I've measured as deep as I want to go in that wood. And I did the same thing over there. Now it's rough, but I favored shallow. So I can come back with a Forstner bit and I'm hoping by hand clean that hole out and make it a flat bottom without taking out that piece that's already glued in the bottom of the stock. So let's see what we can do. Okay, so with the help of that flat bottom Forstner bit, I was able to clean out that bottom of that hole right down to the black plastic. I'm gonna zoom you in here, and hopefully you can see enough to see we're down to the black plastic. Okay, so now we've got the back hole drilled, and we got the front hole drilled. So now we've got to cut and contour our pillars to work. So this one here is going to go in till it's about there. That step. This will be up against the bottom of the action of the gun. And then we got to trim it off. It's going to be about there. Whoops. It's going to be hard to hold it to show you. But it's going to be about there. And then when it's down here, that's how much we got to cut off. That heavy 1/8 of an inch, sly, heavy 1/8 of an inch, got to come off the bottom of that so that it looks like this. It's going to look like this when we're done, flush with the bottom of that hole, so that our trigger guard lays right on there flat. So that one there is pretty straightforward. This one here, we're just going to cut this. We're going to cut all that off. And then we got to contour it, radius it. So it's going to have to be indexed. So it's going to go down in there like that. We're going to cut it off for the higher sides, and then we're going to grind it round so it sits down in there, so it fits with the roundness of the bottom of the action. And then mix up epoxy it in, put the action in, tighten the screws down, and let it sit for 24 hours so the glue can cure. So let's start working on that. Okay, I just went over and dropped the stock on the action, and then dropped this rear pillar in and let it drop down to where it's going to fit. And then with it pushed down hard, I scored it. So see that little line there? Right above my thumb, right there? That's where we got to cut this off to. So we're going to cut it off above that and then file it back to that mark. And that'll be the length for this rear one. A little bit of hand work. Got to go careful. We're going to cut it with a hacksaw and then come back and file it true. Okay, I just went over and dropped the stock on the action, and then dropped this rear pillar in and let it drop down to where it's going to fit. And then with it pushed down hard, I scored it. So see that little line there? Right above my thumb, right there? That's where we got to cut this off to. So we're going to cut it off above that and then file it back to that mark. And that'll be the length for this rear one. A little bit of hand work. Got to go careful. We're going to cut it with a hacksaw and then come back and file it true. I'm going to set it up so that I can't cut it too far. So I'm almost using the side of my vise as a guide, so you can't cut too far. Better stock out of the way. It'll also help you cut square. All right, so we're just above just above that mark. All right, I'll set you in speedy mode so you're not bored. There we go. So I just dressed the corner with the file. I drug a file across it at different angles. And you take a couple strokes this way, turn it, take a couple strokes this way. It'll stop you from leaning on any one side and making it out a square. And of course, files only work in one direction, so that's the way you use them. And then you bang them out to clear the chips. Aluminum is really hard on a file, so it doesn't hurt it any, but it clogs. You know, it clogs up. So you may want to card it to get it clean. Don't let it get impacted. And just keep turning it, and you'll get it dead flat. Maybe not square, but dead flat, which is what you want. So we're at our mark. And then when you're totally done, you just break the edge so you don't have a burr. And then same thing in here. And I just use the sharp edges of the file to break that inside edge right there. And then just one more time in case anything hangs up over the top, and then we're good. So these here, we can dress them up, but they're factory, so they're probably pretty good. Make sure there's no burrs on it. Just hit it real quick. There we go. So we should be ready for this one to get glued in. Maybe I'll cut one more groove in here. These grooves here that you see are in here for the glue, for the epoxy. So maybe I'll cut another one or two out here for the glue to get sticking good. There's not going to be much glue back here, but there should be a little bit. But there's definitely going to be glue all around this, so we'll cut maybe one more right around there. But that's ready. So now let's measure. There's the piece we took off. Let's measure and cut this one. Stand by. I just realized with this upside down and sideways stuff, it's going to be a bit of a task for me to make this all square on your screen. Anyway, so there's the side, there's the bottom. We're going to put it in the hole. Now I'm going to use this tool here to scribe the high side over here and over here. And it's aluminum, so it'll scratch pretty easy. This side might be sharper. Just poking the back of my hand. Just scribe it and hope we see it, and let's see what we get. Okay, all right, we got a couple of scribes. That's no good. So we got a good one there. We got a good one here. So on the double one, we don't know which one is right. But on the single one, we should be right. So let's put it in there again. Yep, that's the right one. So we're going to cut it off on the high side of that. We're going to cut it off just above that scribe. And then we're going to grind this semi-round to fit the action. Stand by. Okay, there we go. Here's our second one cut. So let's stick it in there and see what we get. A little piece of aluminum in my file there. Don't want to come out. See what our pillar looks like. Okay, pretty good on the sides. We just got to dish it out. So we'll get started on that next. All done by hand.